More than that, since winning is stopping the run, a one-man thing. Like, unless you're Casey Hampton or Vince Wilfork, it's called gap integrity, ladies and gentlemen. Like, it doesn't matter if Micah Parsons sets the edge well. If everyone else leaves the A and B gaps wide open, running back's going to hit the cutback lane. Ain't going to matter. So it's a ridiculous thing from Jerry.
All you need to know is this. There are two players in the history of the National Football League that have had 12 or more sacks in each of their first 4 seasons. One of them is Reggie White, who you could argue is the greatest defensive lineman in the history of the league. The other one is Micah Parsons. There's 2 of them that have had 12 or more sacks in each of their first 4 seasons. Reggie White and Micah Parsons. You don't trade a Micah Parsons if you are a smart organization. And I'm not going to say Jerry doesn't know anything about football. I'm just saying that from a business standpoint, it seems like he let the personal get in the way of the professional.
Absolutely. And now Bernie Nicholas is with us. And for the second week in a row, when we're bringing on Bernie, we just can't help but talk about the Dallas Cowboys as Jerry Jones is back in the news again. Bernie, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. I was listening to the conversation. I loved it. As you might imagine, I have an opinion. You know where this trade was basically conceived? We saw it just by watching the Cowboys documentary. Mm-hmm. Jerry Jones has never gotten over, and he never will get. Excuse me. I'll learn how to speak. Jerry Jones has never gotten over. He never will get over the fact that Jimmy Johnson got all of the credit for what transpired. It burns him to this day. He can't sleep at night because of it. And if you watch the documentary, and if you didn't, that's okay. I'll tell you, so much conversation was about that Herschel Walker trade. Mm-hmm. And it was a brilliant trade made by Jimmy Johnson, where they got all of those draft picks. They sent them to the Vikings, and Herschel was overrated in my opinion, and I covered him with all due respect. I think he was overrated. It drives Jerry crazy that Jimmy Johnson got all the credit about being a genius for realizing that this was the way to go if you want to get better. And so Jerry's thinking that this is his Herschel Walker trade. He's trading, except that this guy's much better at what he does than Herschel Walker ever was. Mm-hmm. This guy is a absolute, unless there's some disaster that shortcuts his career by a substantial amount. And I don't imagine that happening. And the Hall of Fame is wisely now putting in players that had great players who had their careers ended by getting knees torn apart or whatever. He will be in the Hall of Fame. This is a Pro Football Hall of Fame pass rusher. He is a game changer. He is a difference maker. And Jerry Jones, when you look around the NFL and you see average, slightly above average offensive tackles being traded for a first-round pick, this was a cheap price for the Packers to pay, because this is a 26-year-old player. He's not 29. He's not 32. He's 26 years old. Mm-hmm. And he's arguably the most disruptive pass rusher in the NFL. And the Packers are going to have him for his prime years. But Jerry Jones is still trying to settle a score with Jimmy Johnson. And he is a stark, raving mad Looney Tunes. Just go sit in a chair. Hey, Jones family, put grandpa in the chair and give him some bourbon. and just, and somebody take over the Cowboys. Grandpa is done, okay? He's done, and I know Grandpa.
I'm enjoying it, Bernie. I'm loving every minute of it. Okay, I got a couple of things here.
I know it's so funny. It's because it's like, man, I was there at the beginning of this Cowboys dynasty. It's just stunning to me that they haven't made a conference championship game in 30 years.
Okay,
it's unreal.
By the way, Jerry's first answer last night to the first question was 14 minutes. He just went on and on and on.
Well, it's just like what I did, 14 minutes. So I guess I have something in common.
I got a couple of things for you here. Number one, with that trade that Jimmy Johnson made was made to try to rebuild a franchise. I think this team is much closer to being good than bad. Not that they're. I think you could add pieces, and the Cowboys would be closer to a Super Bowl. that team needed a lot. The team that you covered, that when Johnson made the trade, all of those players that they got from that, they needed desperately. I don't think the needs are as prevalent here with this group.
No, you're right. There's a lot of talent. I don't know whether to give Jerry credit or not, but I would acknowledge this because I think it's fair to acknowledge this. He did bring in over the years, and he still has them. And he does find good scouts, and he puts them to work. And when Jerry is smart enough or coherent enough to actually take their advice, they have drafted some really good players. They've drafted a lot of really good players, but that's just one part of the whole thing. Then you have to make smart decisions with your spending. Oh, it would really help if you actually have a head coach, things like that. And you're not so obsessed with power. Your priority should be something other than making sure you have your own post-game news conference every week, and then doing 2 or 3 radio shows every week. Jerry wants to be the star of his own franchise.
Yeah, right. And Bernie, our good friend Charlie Army had just the most logical approach. And people might not remember this. In addition to building the greatest show on turf, he was really the driving personnel force behind that group. He also pretty much built Belichick's first iteration of the Patriots. And so he was a great personnel guy. But one of the things that he always would say is, get yourself a Pro Bowl quarterback, Pro Bowl running back, Pro Bowl receiver, Pro Bowl left tackle, Pro Bowl pass rusher, Pro Bowl corner. Start there, get those 6, and you're on your way. Then you kind of fill in around those. You get your other corner, you get your other tackle, but get those guys. And you look at Dallas, if Dak can play, they need the left tackle now, and they need the running back, but they've got a lot of elements on that team. That's why I say that I think they're closer to being good than bad.
And one of if you're a Cowboys fan, one of the things I think you should regret as much as anything is that for years and years, and recently, the Cowboys had a great offensive line, and an offensive line can be your engine that leads you to glory. Look at the greatest show on turf. Look at Pace on the left side. They go out. Charlie Army goes out and gets Adam Timmerman. They find Tom Newton, and it's like, who? The starting center on that team. I mean, that was a great offensive line. And, without that offensive line, Kurt Warner doesn't get to do all the things that he did. Without Orlando Pace protecting his blind side and Xing out his guy week after week after week, where they would even overload that side thinking, well, there's no way that Pace in effect can block 2 or 3 of us, but he would, because he was so quick and he had such great lateral movement. He would take out one guy and then slide and then take out another guy. And then Kurt could throw the ball. I mean, the offensive line is huge. So the Cowboys never took advantage of having a beast-like offensive line.
No.
Jerry never, the general manager, who is Jerry Jones, can find some talent and all that, and his scouts can. He doesn't know how to finish off a roster. He can't.
No, and they kind of wasted a Hall of Fame career for a guy that the Rams tried to trade for in Martin, and then Tyron Smith. Yeah, Martin is a Hall of Famer. Smith is a borderline Hall of Famer, and you start there with the left tackle and the right guard, and you're right, and they had other good players up front, and they basically wasted the careers of a lot of guys.
Yeah, and I always think that the 1999 Rams actually set a good example of how a team can really improve and improve dramatically. And sometimes you need to be a little lucky. I think the Rams deep down inside will tell you they thought Kurt Warner would be a good quarterback. He'd do a nice job. They never expected this. But then again, they also gave Kurt, and he would be the first to remind us, they also gave Kurt an outstanding number of pieces to make that whole offense go. So it was a beautiful thing to watch. And
you know what's interesting, though? Go ahead, Barry. Sorry.
No, that's good. I'm good.
I was going to say that, Hanny used to be able to mold offensive linemen that came from college. Now with literally every college program, except for maybe Michigan, running a spread offense, it's really difficult for and I don't even know if there are any great offensive line coaches left in the NFL, but it's really difficult to mold offensive linemen the way that people like Jim Hannafin did when he was alive and kicking in the NFL.
He's the all-time great at least during my lifetime. There's never been a better offensive line coach than Jim Hannafin because he did it. I saw what he did in Washington, saw what he did in other places. Everywhere he went, the offensive line was outstanding. He made guys better.
Conrad Dobler was a defensive lineman. The Cardinals cut him, and he said, "Hey, let's bring him back. I want to try him on the offensive line." And he turned him into a Pro Bowl guy.
He was something else.
Is that an Ozzie Smith hat?
Yes, it is.
That is a fantastic. That is a fantastic Ozzie Smith hat.
Well, you look, you can see,
you see
the logo.
Okay.
You see, there's the Hall of Fame. See the Hall of Fame patch?
Very nice. Yeah.
I had to get this. Yeah, I had to jump on it. It's great.
Is he the best defensive player in baseball history?
I think he is. And I don't even think I have to give you my usual overabundant list of stats either. No, I think he is. I mean, all you had to do was watch him, but the stats bear it out too. Like the number of assists and the number, the number of balls that he got to. And I'm talking about on a rate basis, not just the entire career. I mean, the entire career, it's obvious, but just season to season and season. He was getting to more baseballs than any infielder, any shortstop, not only of the era, but ever. His range, there's no one has ever had range playing shortstop like Ozzie Smith. No one's even close to having that kind of range ever, before or after. He was a one-of-a-kind defensive player. I mean, he really, really was.
In 2025, right now, when you want to rate a defensive player, because I think that's the way defensive players have been rated, that's been the best change in terms of being able to regard a player. Mm-hmm. What do you look at, though, Bernie? What's your Bible for defensive ratings?
Well, despite what some people think, I am not in a cult, so I don't believe like every metric is like the beginning, the middle of the end, the truth, the light, the salvation. Unfortunately, some of my other stat nerd friends, they are basically, as I said in a video I just recorded for STL Sports Central, they're basically the equivalent of crackheads because they just can't. They just can't get enough of the metrics to the point where it just controls their minds, and it makes them unstable as far as being able to realize that there are other things, other ways of measuring players. And I'm getting off the track a little bit because that's what I do, but I'll tell you one thing and Randy, you will love this, my friend. One thing I'm really tired of hearing about when it comes to StatCast stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't care about bat speed, okay? I don't care about bat speed because all you got to do is look at the top of the list and see Jordan Walker, top 1% of bat speed in the majors. Well, how's that working out?
Right.
Like if all you needed is bat speed, they wouldn't be able to fit enough guys into the Hall of Fame. I looked way down the list to some of the people that with below average bat speed, and they're some of the best hitters in baseball today. There's more that goes into the art of hitting than just measuring how fast a guy swings a bat. And this is what I'm talking about. But yet you've got the StatCast crackheads out there that they'll just look at that and obsess over it. And they think that's the key to everything. And it's not. It's just one piece of many different components. Anyway, to your point, and I'm sorry, but don't you feel good? I got that off my chest, right?
Yeah, and let me just make one addition to that because your point is really well made. But having, for example, Nolan Gorman's bat speed is actually down from last year, right? But he's become a more selective hitter because he's not trying to swing as hard.
100%. This is why I love Randy Carricker. Another reason, 100%, because he was trying to kill every pitch, and Brent Brown got him to slow down. Mm-hmm. And I talked to Ollie Marmos about that. He said we had to slow him down because I appreciate that he wants to go up there and attack. Because I asked Ollie, I said his habits at the plate are much better, but why? Where's the power? And he said it will come because we had to slow him down. And once he understands what he has to do to crank out a good at bat, he'll speed up his swing again. And that's exactly what's happened. And Nolan Gorman is really doing well. But anyway, the thing I look at with defense right now, I still think the most important thing, and this is where StatCast is good, really good. I think range has got to be the most important thing because it's all about getting the baseballs. And I do realize I think the positioning that your coaching staff and your analytics people come up with is really, really important too. The way you position fielders is really important. The smart teams are good at that. The Cardinals have become good at that. But you look at Mason Wynn. His range is extraordinary. It's not Ozzie Smith range because no one ever had that kind of range playing shortstop. But you have a guy like Mason Wynn who can make every kind of play. He can get to just about any kind of ball within reason, and he's got a gun of an arm that can throw hitters out. And he's a really smart player. So I look at that. Listen, I don't look at fielding percentage unless it's something so bad you can't help but look at how bad it is. Mm-hmm. But just you got to get to the ball to make plays, and when you make plays, you get a lot of outs. And I think it starts with range. You want to see good hands. You want to see a good throwing arm. You want to see a guy at his best be able to come in on a ball, also be equally strong whether he goes to his left or his right. And I think Mason Wynn checks those boxes. And I'm just using him as an example of what I look at.
Okay. So are you looking at range factor? Is it defensive run save?
No, outs above average. That is that is a range metric.
Okay, got it.
Right.
Talking all the good things about the defense, we do have to dive into your recent piece for STL Sports Central because the Cardinals offense, we talked about it before. The stat that I had going into last night's game was in the previous 9 games, Bernie, they had 20 more strikeouts than they had hits. You obviously broke it down in a very wide range, looking at the individual struggles of a lot of players, the overall struggles of the offense. And I love the way you put this. The Cardinals have guys, but the Cardinals need dudes. Right. Can you just dive into some of the numbers you had for the offensive malaise of the Redbirds?
When Boog Sciambi when he wasn't doing the Cubs games, although I still love him doing Cubs games, but when he was working primarily for ESPN, he's a really smart guy, and I said to him, what's going on with the Cardinals? Like, why aren't they better offensively? And he said on my show, he said, it's an easy answer, not an easy solution, but it's an easy answer. And I said, well, what? He said, they need more good dudes. And I said, well, what do you, I had not yet caught on to that expression, right? And I said, well, explain. He said, well, teams that are okay, they're average, maybe a little above average, a little below average, but they're in that middle with a bunch of other teams. They have guys. I said, well, what's a guy? He said, a guy is not like bad, but he's just a guy. He can start. He can do okay. He's a guy. And he said, the Cardinals have a lot of guys, but they don't have dudes. They don't have enough dudes. So they got to get good dudes. And I said, well, how do you define dude? And Boog Sciambi said, superstar, but there are even dudes that are so good they may not be classic superstars, but they can absolutely elevate your team. The Cardinals don't have dudes. They got to get more dudes. And I look at this team, and they fit that very definition of what's a guy and what's a dude. And I like it because it's just another way to describe a situation that's actually more fun to describe it this way. Like who's the closest? Let me ask you, my friends, who is the closest Cardinal to being a guy? Like a guy? I mean a dude. I'm sorry, a dude. Like for example, I look at Kyle Schwarber, and I'm not just saying this because he hit 4 home runs last night. All right. Is he a great player? No. But he's got an element that makes him a dude, right? He's a big time dude because he can wreck scoreboards and rearrange games, and just 1 or 2 swings of the bat changes everything. All right. So who among the Cardinals right now, who do you think is the closest to being considered? I don't think any of them should be considered a dude, with all due respect.
I think Wynn would probably be the closest in my book.
With both the defense, but the offense has got to come on. I think it will.
Yep.
But then you have Burleson. He's improved defensively, but his offense is really, really fun to watch. But he's not a dude. I don't think they have a dude. They have guys.
Yeah.
And a lot of the
maybe
guys are
Weatherholt
pretty good
could be that
players.
guy. Yeah,
What's that?
maybe Weatherholt winds up being a dude.
Weatherholt will absolutely be a dude. Book it.
Is what Gorman's doing the last month or so? I mean, he's seen the ball well. The approach to the plate is different. I guess the big question is, can he combine the approach to the plate with the slugging numbers that he's had in the past? Because he has had to pull back a little bit of his explosiveness to have more control.
First of all, I'm going to be a jerk. And even though I love you, Matt Rocchio, I'm going to have to just tell you, Gorman's been doing this since late May.
Yeah.
One of the things that drives me crazy, and that's because I'm weird and I let things like this bother me and I shouldn't, is that people talk about him as if this just started a couple weeks ago or something. I've been tracking him ever since I had that conversation with Marmol about how things would evolve with Gorman. I've been tracking him really closely. He's been an entirely different hitter since late May. And I'm teasing you, but I'm just saying that because there's like a common perception. I mean, our friends at FanDuel Sports Midwest, and they just like really within the last couple of weeks began talking about Nolan Gorman's improvement, and it's been going on for 3 months, right? So he's been really good. But to your point, and again, I'm sorry for being obnoxious. To get to your point. No, he's got to do it over a much longer period of time. It just can't be a 3 or 4 month stretch. It's got to be the 2026 season, and he does it pretty much all year. And listen, he's entitled to have slumps like everybody is. But I like what he's doing because all the things we look at has improved with him, include his plate discipline more than anything.
And Bernie, we have to look at the other part of this because we're talking about offense, and I don't know who the dude from the pitching standpoint is going to be. That dude pitcher is not around, and I'm not sure that maybe it'll be Liam Doyle. We have no idea. They certainly don't have multiple pitching dudes in their system.
I think Doyle can be a dude for sure. I mean, I think they have some potential dudes. I still think Quinn Matthews is a really good chance of him becoming a dude, but they don't. You can find listen, I think there are a lot of relievers who are dudes. They're and I'm not trying to diminish the importance of having a dude reliever. And the Cardinals through the years have had a lot of them. That's the one thing they kind of get right. But no, that they need so much help in that area. And I did something and I talked about it as part of the video that I just recorded before I joined you. You know what I think symbolizes the Cardinals' downturn as a baseball entity in terms of modernization and adjusting to the industry, adjusting to the way the game's played, realizing you have to evolve, you have to change. You know what it is? And this sounds so simple, but that's what makes it such a good way to put it. All you got to do is look at four-seam fastballs.
Nope. They're terrible at it. Did you freeze up or?
Yeah.
Oh, you did freeze up. I was like,
and as I'd say to people, so like, listen, I'm not saying you have to like the way the game is played today.
Okay.
Yeah, Bernie, your internet's going a little bit in and out. We're having trouble hearing you. It's cutting in and out a little bit, unfortunately. And that's a bummer too, because I really wanted to get into because his piece on STL Sports Central, he broke down all these numbers, and it was Patrick Toohey who actually said Ivan Herrera is close to a dude. And I really hope we can get Bernie back on because he pointed out there that since June 30th, Ivan Herrera's weighted runs created plus puts him at a 15% below average in Major League Baseball. So, he's another guy like Gorman. We just haven't seen it long enough to give him that label.
Right. And the thing with Gorman, he didn't play. I think there were something like 7 instances in the first 2 months where they let him play 3 or more games in a row. And since then, he's been a regular. And he was a work in progress too. Remember, Brant Brown worked with him throughout the offseason. They got to spring training. And one of the reasons they didn't play him is because they didn't think he was completely ready. Once he was ready and they thought he was ready and they started playing him right around the 1st of June, as Bernie said, late May. He's been really good. And he's a guy that with that element in your lineup, you can absolutely win with.
Somebody said Charter got Bernie. I mean, sorry, Spectrum. Tim Magano. I thought he was pausing for very dramatic effect.
Yeah,
I thought he was as well.
Me too.
Somebody says I saw that AOL is discontinuing dial-up internet. Didn't realize it even still existed.
Yeah. I saw online that AOL is discontinuing dial-up. That's amazing. Did you know that it still existed?
I had no idea. It still existed. But here's the thing. Here's something you got to realize. This is just a good thing to understand. There's infrastructure in this country that services parts of the country you don't even know exist.
Mm-hmm.
Like the people don't realize it's like
right.
there's parts of this country that you can live in where Amazon does not deliver to your doorstep.
Yeah. No doubt.
And things like that. And so like something tells me there was a very small part of America that was not very close to a very large city that was still using dial-up.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
And then some of the people out there in the hinterlands, they've got that Hughes satellite stuff.
Dude, hinterlands is such a good term.
Yeah.
I'm so happy you used the term hinterlands.
It's a great term.
Another, I know that Jordan Walker hit the home run last night, but we're talking about disappointing offenses. Bernie tries to reconnect here to close out this segment. Again, we keep having these up and down moments with Jordan Walker. Got another home run from him, but he's another one that unfortunately, the more we see from him, he appears to be just another guy.
Yeah, and that's his 5th home run. I mean, it's and it's great. And there's Bernie. He's back.
I don't know what happened. My wireless has been a little temperamental lately, but let me just finish what I was saying. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
like,
no worries.
To me, this symbolizes the state of the Cardinals more than anything. A very simple thing, which is fastballs. Like they have not adjusted to the modern game. And whether we like the modern game, the style, whether we like it or not, is, frankly, irrelevant. It's like, okay, this is how the game's played. This is how teams are exceeding. This is how teams that you're trying to catch this is what they're doing. And you're way behind in 2 very simple but very important things. This season, because Ali Marmol talked about the hitting, but I decided, well, it's more than just the hitting. This season, the St. Louis Cardinals as a staff, right? There's only one team in the majors that's thrown fewer pitches of 95 plus miles an hour. So they don't have the physical capacity to throw high velocity fastballs, right? And by the way, if you have high velocity fastballs, it doesn't mean that that's all you throw. You have to be a good pitcher. You have to have other good pitches. So it doesn't mean you're one dimensional. But my point is the Cardinals don't even have that capacity as a staff to pitch with power, get swings and misses and strikeouts. In other words, it's a team, it's a pitching staff, a rotation. I'm exaggerating, but it's a group of Andre Palantes, right? Balls always in play, always in play, always in play. So on that end of the fastball battle, the Cardinals are the second least capable team in the majors. Their hitters are in the bottom 3 in terms of their performance against fastballs 95 plus. So something as simple and basic and elementary as a fastball, the Cardinals are terrible at throwing them and they're terrible at hitting them. How the heck are you going to how the heck do you come ahead? How do you get ahead of other teams if that's your profile? You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's pretty much impossible. And that's why everyone should be thankful that Chaim Bloom's on the way. Not only him, people forget this. It's the people that he's bringing with him. Because, if it's possible to scout hitters when you're looking to the draft. It's really possible to scout out hitters that okay, this guy can handle the modern game. He can hit fastballs. He really can hit fastballs. The Cardinals haven't been drafting enough of those guys. I think Chaim Bloom and his people will know exactly, well, we've got to change our philosophy in selecting hitters. Not every hitter should be like that, but we need more of them. Just like Chaim Bloom got together with Randy Flores, and Chaim Bloom's guys got together with Randy Flores and said, look, you've done a really good job, but we're way, way behind the time. We need more potential to strike out hitters and get swing and miss. We got to start drafting those guys. That's what they did in the recent draft. And so, again, people are probably going to say, well, Bernie, I think you are crazy because now you're just like, you're babbling excitedly about fastballs. Yeah, I am. Because there's a team in this town that can't hit them and can't throw them. And I think that I would say that puts you at a disadvantage, right?
Yeah, and so they pick up a guy like Alcala, and that's why, right? Because he can throw more than 95. You say, who is this guy, Jorge Alcala? Well, the reason that he's here is because he does throw hard. That it's not because of the success he's had. It's because the Cardinals are hoping, and Chaim Bloom and that staff that you're talking about, that they can find a diamond in the rough and polish it up and make it better than it's been already. And
I got to give John Mozeliak some credit. I know that will get you arrested in St. Louis for saying that. So if there's a good attorney out there who represent me, because it's forbidden by law to praise John Mozeliak. John Mozeliak made a hell of a trade, Paul DeYoung getting Matt Swanson. And I talked to Mo at the time, and he said, well, we really think he can become something because he's a big, strong guy, and he throws really, really hard. And so Mo, and I'm not saying Mo did that enough, but Mo identified that guy. Mo also, and he might have gotten an assist from Chaim Bloom, but Mo also, wanted to, and he did sign Riley O'Brien, who's got the potential to be one of those guys. And they have started to collect some of these type of pitchers. They just need a lot more of them. And they really need it in the rotation. Sonny Gray can strike people out. He's got the swing and miss, but he'll also be 36 years old next year. His strikeout rate continues to decline. His swing and miss rate is good, but it continues to decline. But who else is there? I think Liberatore can be like a 23%, 24% strikeout guy. That's not bad. Other than that, though, they're just not there. And that's a real problem, the way the game is played today. Like if, and even when the Cardinals throw, let me one more thing to this. Even when Cardinals pitchers throw 95 plus miles an hour, just because you throw it, it doesn't mean it's a good pitch. Their fastballs are very hittable. And, I was looking at this earlier, and the numbers are unbelievable. Like, for example, when Cardinals pitchers this season have thrown a fastball 95 miles an hour or higher, but they throw a strike, the other side hits 324 against those pitches and slugs 472 because it doesn't move. It comes in straight.
That was happening with Ryan Helsley, right? That was his year, basically.
That's right. So, and I'm not claiming that I know how to solve all the Cardinals' problems, but it starts with something as simple as that. But the one thing, and I wrote about this yesterday, when you look at this offense, which has absolutely deteriorated since the end of June, after that Cleveland series, it's been downhill the rest of the way, falling apart. They are a terrible team in terms of hitting for power. So you say, okay, well, there's other ways to score runs. I agree. To compensate for that, it's hard to do it, but you can. And the one way you do it is you get on base a lot. You draw walks. You hit for average. You get on base. The Cardinals right now, since the end of June, they are in the bottom 3 in terms of power, and they're also in the bottom 3 in terms of getting on base. So if you have a 301 on base percentage, which is awful, and your slugging percentage since the end of June is 355, which is awful, how do you score runs? Like if you're getting guys on base all the time, at least you have more opportunities to get them home. But if you're not getting them on base and you can't hit for power, how do you generate consistent runs? You can't.
Bernie, it sounds like they have problems.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Maybe a little. Defense is good. Bullpen's been good. Bullpen's still pretty damn good even after trading those 3 guys. Go ahead.
Not having any power hitting or power pitching in 2025 in baseball kind of seems like a football team in 2015 wanting to be run heavy. I'm just saying it feels kind of like a decade ago in another situation. I don't like feeling that again.
The Cardinals need their version. I'm gonna vibe on what Rocc just said. The Cardinals need their version of like Mike Martz.
Yes.
You know, it's just so well. No, you can no. We're not playing leather helmet football here. No. We're going to open this thing up, and we're going to put people in motion, and we're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to drive defensive coordinators crazy. These guys won't be able to sleep at night. We're going to, Rodney Harrison knocked out Trent Green, blew out his knee. Okay. Mike Martz told me one time before the Chargers were in town, he said, he called me up and said, hey, he says, no, I know you'll be at the game, but I'm just tipping you off about something. I said, what's that? He just watch what we're going to do to Rodney Harrison. I said, what? Don't fight fire with fire. Like, don't have guys like going after his knees. He said, no, he says, oh no, it's much worse than that. He said, you just watched. You watched the start of the game. And Randy, I know you'll remember this game, and I forget the exact number. They came out 17. And what was it? 17 passes in a row?
Yeah, to start the game.
And Rodney Harrison's like chasing everybody, and he's out of breath. Like after every snap, you see him heaving, and bent over at the waist. I mean, the Cardinals kind of need something. I know it's not an exact match, but the Cardinals, if to use the analogy, they're like the baseball version of a leather helmet football team. They really got to modernize.
Yeah, they've. Who's June Henley? JT Thomas.
Wow. Well, I know. But remember that game, and I've used this story a lot. It's a quick one. Jim Thomas and I were the only two St. Louis sports media representatives, other than the play-by-play guys in Philadelphia for that Thursday night game when Dick Vermeil went back home.
Yeah.
And the Philadelphia media was like, this is crazy. Like, there's only two people from the whole market. I said, well, look, we're here. And I said to one of my Philly friends, I said, but listen, hold on now. You got Tony Banks at quarterback, handing off to June Henley and throwing to JT Thomas. That's their offense.
Oof. Oh, no.
They're a bad team. And they're a really dull team. It's like the double blow. You can be bad but entertaining. And so that's, to me, that's like the miracle of St. Louis sports. So they go in 1998, they got Banks at quarterback, June Henley as their top runner, and JT Thomas, because Isaac Bruce was hurt. JT Thomas as their top receiver. A year from that date, a year later in Philadelphia, from that date in Philadelphia, they got Kurt Warner throwing to Holt and Bruce and Falk, and they have Marshall Falk running the ball, and they also have Jeff Robinson catching passes and Ryan Tucker catching passes and good tight ends. I mean, the whole, that's how quickly things can change. That was the most dramatic transformation I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was unbelievable. Hey, are you going to be watching Ohio State, Texas tomorrow?
I will. I can't wait. I haven't looked at the game as far as who I think will win. I'm just curious, like most people, how Arch Manning will handle it. Because now, there's been so much Arch Manning hype. Not that he creates it. He seems to be a really anchored in guy in terms of ego. But now, because especially at the worldwide leader, you just can't like offer a straight opinion. You have to say, well, what can I do to get attention?
Right.
So what we got 75,000 people screaming at the top of their lungs with hot takes. So what can I do? So you got Aaron Rodgers' little brother. So he's the guy talking about, well, I don't think he's that good. And people say, well, why isn't he that good? He says, well, we haven't seen him play that much. Well, how the hell do you know if he's not any good?
Right.
I mean, you got to process your simple-minded hot takes. You got to be a little more careful with that. So anyway, and by the way, I think Jordan Rodgers is good, but
yeah,
you got the hot take fever, apparently.
Well, what's interesting, because I was talking to both of our former co-hosts, Michelle Smallman, a couple of weeks ago, and I said, you're kind of like the voice of reason on the entire network. And she said, thanks, I get that a lot. And she said, that's because of Bernie and you, because she learned to build a foundation through knowledge to develop an opinion. rather than just come up with an opinion with no knowledge or foundation for it whatsoever. So she's doing a fabulous job on ESPN Radio and now on ESPN TV. But
she's a star, and I mean that sincerely.
Yeah,
but no, that's nice. It was really nice of her to say. Yeah, I got to get in touch with her. I haven't talked to her for a long time because I'm bad at staying in touch with just about everybody.
Yeah, but it's a hot take world, isn't it?
It is.
Okay. I'm gonna go off the rails here.
Here we go.
No, this is just it drives me crazy because Bernie, you agree with this. I know it's the dumbing down of the American sports fan and specifically the football fan by pitting quarterback against quarterback. And somebody literally said a few years ago on ESPN Radio, "Oh, I don't think there's any way that Brock Purdy can go in and beat Jalen Hurts," like they were boxing or something. And the worst offender of this is Chris Canty, who played defensive tackle for a championship team. And he talks about, Aaron Rodgers has only won one Super Bowl. Well, how many Super Bowls did Drew Brees win? So you're telling me that Drew Brees isn't good? How many did Dan Marino win? You're telling me Dan Marino's not? It's like it's almost like it's Pete Sampras against Jim Courier rather than 53 against 53. And it drives me crazy that even people that played the game don't have an understanding of what it takes to win a football game.
Randy, you and I think so alike, because I always use the Wimbledon analogy, this very thing. I always say, because when you get to these dumb quarterback debates or whatever, this guy doesn't have enough rings, or this guy he only won one Super Bowl, or he didn't win a Super Bowl. And I've always said, I'm sorry, is this like Wimbledon's men's singles final or something? Or did they change the NFL? Is it still a team sport? I must have missed it when it turned into like a golf tournament, each golfer putting up a score, basically competing against each other, not the Ryder Cup where it's literally a team. But so no, when did this turn into like Wimbledon singles final?
It's literally like we were talking about right before you came on. Like Skip Bayless and people are saying, it's a great trade because Micah Parsons is the reason they've been bad against. They're bad against the run because of Micah Parsons, or Micah Parsons disappears in big games. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure there are 10 other guys on defense who also have to do their jobs.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised that Skip would say that. Hardly surprised. Yeah, I was listening to you guys when I first logged on before we started this segment, and Randy, you guys were talking about that, about that's what you pay defensive tackles for, to stop the run, and not just defensive tackles. You got to have a safety who's an enforcer. Your linebackers, especially in the middle, but your linebackers have to be able to go, good lateral movement to get the runners and all that. But your point, and I heard you say it, it's like, well, was there one soul in the world who gave a damn about how Lawrence Taylor played the run?
Yeah, no.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's not what we talk about him.
And the Greatest Show on Turf had, at their peak in 99, their defense was ranked 6th in the league, and I think it was even lower in terms of points allowed. And they were really good defense, and they got overshadowed for obvious reasons. You had Kevin Carter, who was an all-pro and a great pass rusher, and you had on the other side Leonard. Was it Leonard Little playing in '99 too? Grant Wistrom. Sorry. You had two defensive ends, and then there were other times in part of the Greatest Show years where Leonard Little was piling up stacks, and that was their job: go get the quarterback. Well, the Greatest Show on Turf also had guys inside who could stuff the run. Nobody could block DeMarco Farr because he was so quick. Ray Agnew was really, really good. Who am I missing here? Jeff Sanina, very underrated. Those guys, except for DeMarco the one year, they were never stars.
And Bernie, what was London Fletcher's job in that defense, right?
Right. Exactly. Just go like a missile into every run gap.
Yeah.
And blow it up. Right.
Yeah.
So, like some of the greatest Show on Turf defenses, they were good defensively in '99 and 2001. They had guys inside that could stuff the run.
Yeah.
But when you have you have an advanced weapon, it's like some new military, weapon. Bad analogy. I can't put it together. Sorry. But where you have guys who are in effect specialists, but they can do something that very few people on planet Earth can do. They can disrupt and change games entirely just for their ability to rush the passer. Nobody cares how many tackles they have on running plays. But if they're rolling up the quarterback pressures, the quarterback hits, the intimidation factors, the sacks, and the other team has to game plan for them specifically, and with some of the great ones, they have to game plan to great lengths to at least try to keep them under control. That's a very special player, and only a moron would suggest that somehow they're lacking because, well, I don't think he's great against the run. Yeah, I mean, all you got to do, if I hear anybody say that on ESPN or elsewhere, that tells me you are a complete and utter idiot. You know nothing. Except you're trying to run your mouth to get attention.
One of my favorite examples of this is it would have been like the 2009 or it was the year after they won the championship. I want to say the Colts. They're getting torn apart in the run game the entire season. And no one's blaming Robert Mathis or Dwight Freeney because they know that their job is to rush the passer. But they were missing Bob Sanders the entire season.
Mm-hmm.
He comes back for the playoff game against Larry Johnson and the Chiefs, and the Colts defense comes alive, and they absolutely completely shut down a running game that every single analyst was like, Larry Johnson and the Chiefs are going to absolutely steamroll this Colts team. They can't stop the run. But once they got a guy whose job it was to focus in on that part of the game, they absolutely locked it down. But no one was bitching about the Pro Bowl and borderline Hall of Fame pass rushers not getting the run stopping. They understood that's not these guys' jobs.
Yeah, no doubt.
Let's go back to Jim Hart, the great Jim Hart.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he didn't win a playoff game, right? And when I was trying to make a Hall of Fame case for him, I couldn't get much traction because everyone on that committee was, well, he never even won a playoff game. Well, he never did this. He never did that. He threw it for a lot of yards. Oh, yeah, it was really impressive. I mean it, Bernie. He threw it for a lot of yards. There's no question about it. He could throw it. And he was an excellent quarterback. But, I also judge quarterbacks on winning the big games and blah, blah, blah. And I would say, without trying to be as snarky as I wanted to be, but I basically say, well, you do realize that those teams didn't have a defense, right?
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't stop anybody. You do know that, right? Was Jim Hart supposed to hold the other team to 18 points?
Yeah.
Was he supposed to go out there and play defense?
Dan Deerdorf would agree with me, although he wouldn't say it publicly. And you'll agree with this. But if Jim Hart is playing for the Steelers, he wins 4 Super Bowls. And if Terry Bradshaw is playing for the Cardinals, he probably doesn't win a playoff game.
100% in agreement. Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's
in fact,
simple.
Jim Hart would have been in that setup. He would have been a much better version of Terry Bradshaw in that setup.
I agree. Yeah.
Because Jim Hart, I don't have to tell my friend Randy Carricker this. Jim Hart threw one of the great deep balls in the history of this league consistently.
Yeah.
Him throwing to Swan and Stallworth. And I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Right?
It would have been outrageous.
I know.
Yeah. So it would have been fun.
Sometimes it does come down to who drafts you, right?
Yeah. Right.
It really does.
Hey, look at Dan himself. Dan was a better player than Art Shell, arguably. They're both Hall of Famers, both great, but both great offensive tackles. But Art Shell has Super Bowl rings because he got drafted by the Raiders, and Dan doesn't because, again, if you flip those two, Art Shell might be in the Hall of Fame here, but Dan would have that glory of having the Super Bowl rings. It's just,
I mean, Dan would have been a perennial All-Pro, so to speak, no matter where he played in the NFL. And he was such a standout that he was like Joe Thomas before Joe Thomas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good comp.
Joe Thomas, one of the great offensive tackles I've ever seen, and was a slam dunk Hall of Famer. And he played for really, really bad teams in Cleveland all those years. Mm-hmm. But, people were able to separate him from the mediocrity that he was part of through no fault of his own. And Dan was like that, although the offense was great. And that's why I was really, really shocked by how long it took him to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, because he was part of one of the great offensive lines ever, the best lineman on one of the great offensive lines ever. And you just could not get to Jim Hart. And so this guy distinguished himself year after year after year. And he wasn't the only one, but he was the alpha dog of that group. I mean, but Jack Buck and he stayed at it. And there were some stats coming out at that time that could be dissimulated and added to making the case for Dan Dierdorf's inclusion, and they finally got him in, but it took way too long, and it was a shame, and it was really, really frustrating.
Yeah, no doubt. Bernie, great stuff as always. Have a great weekend, sir.